Okay. Greetings. I can't hear you and I can't see you. There you go.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Greetings. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm doing well. Hold on, hold 1 second. I'm just trying to get
Y- Yes, sir.
some final audio and video set up. One day I'll be able to afford an engineer.
Listen, you and me both.
And let me think here on the camera for a second.
That's fine.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna live stream because I only have one camera and my
That's
laptop camera.
that's fine. We're presently live streaming now on
All right.
YouTube, and then it'll be it's being recorded anyway. And so I can make sure that I also email you the direct link of all of this also.
1 second here.
Okay.
All right, can you say something?
Check, check,
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
check, check.
All right, so I think we're in pretty good shape here. You know what? I'm gonna live stream this over Instagram. 1 second. All right. I can hear you. You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Is this any better here? Nice and deep.
That's awesome.
All right. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm
I
doing all right. Oh, let me switch my camera here.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, there we go. There we go.
So I want to tell you thank you again. It is such a I really do appreciate it. Just tell you a little bit about myself because I was reading your messages. Look, I'm 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 kind of one of the dullest tools in the box, but my platform is very diverse. I feel like everybody has a voice, and in my opinion, everybody has something to say. I think that part of my goal is to show people the importance of reasoning with one another,
Hmm.
and I can't always be right. Sometimes have to listen, and then it also helps me meet people and get to just show other people some great things. So that's just really who I am. I get all over the place sometimes, but if I get all over the place, you're gonna reel me right on back in. I I, I
Well,
believe that.
you're gonna have your hands full
Okay.
reeling me in,
Okay.
which is fine. I actually got a domain name once called However I Digress.
Okay.
And actually, in some of my writings that I've done, I use that phrase because, yeah, who knows where this is going to go, which is good,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, um, yeah. So, how do you want to officially begin?
We already in it,
There we go.
tonight. I'm sitting here for those of you. I just also shared it on my live stream. So, Mr. Steven, pronounce your last name for me so I can make sure I get it right.
Yeah, Benfield.
Mr. Stephen Benfield. So one thing that drove me to you is when you sent your information being self-evident. Like I want to just dive right into that. Like and you sent me some stuff last night, but I don't want to read it. I just prefer you to say it and do
Yeah,
your
yeah.
own elaboration for yourself. But let's just dive into it. Talk what what drew you to the being self-evident?
Yeah. So about 15 years ago, I stuck my name into an anagram maker and it rearranges the letters of your name. And it brought up like 1,000 different choices. And I just was reading through them. And one of them was be self-evident. So if you rearrange the letters of be self-evident, it spells my name, Steve Benfield.
Wow.
Right. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought, well, being self-evident is kind of self-evident. So I just started using it. And then when I decided to kind of start moving into yeah, being an artist and a writer and a speaker, I was like, well, what domain name do I want to use? I mean, I have stevebenfield.com, because I've been in the internet so long, I've been a chief technology officer. I got all my domain names early. So I got my name, I got my kids' names, got my ex-wife's name, right? And just reserved those things early on. And so, yeah, I reserved Be Self-Evident, I don't know, a long time ago, not having any clue whether I'd ever use it. There's two other sites I have actually. One is called Beliefs Vented, which also
Okay.
spells Steve Benfield. And when I decide to get political, I think that's where I'm going to put Beliefs Vented, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then and then another one is Bed Envies Felt, and that's
Okay.
for I don't know, a little more erotic poetry and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with that site. But I reserved all three of those because rearrange the letters. It's my name, and my whole brand and is around authenticity. And so I felt that how it's still authentic because it's still my name,
Right.
right? So that's where that came from.
So when we talk about be self-evident, there are some people, and I've just heard you have a lot of things that you have done, and clearly you have a lot of things that you're doing now. What is a normal day for you?
Oh my. Well, it kind of depends on how much trouble I got in the night before.
Okay.
And by trouble, it's kind of like what did I say? What did I what did I post? What did I video? Um, a typical day for me is I don't know, I tend to sleep to like 10:30, go to bed at like 4 a.m. ish. Um, and it's writing. I do a lot of conversations via social media with people I know and a lot of people I don't know. Um, you know, Lately it's been a lot more phone calls, but uh, I I kind of get to do what I want to do, which is kind of cool. I'm hoping to get paid for it too. So if you could do what you like to do all day and get paid for it, you know, that's kind of like the definition of happiness, I think. Um, but and I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm working on um, I got theories around neuropsychology and emotions, how we interact with each other. I even have some theoretical physics stuff I'm working on. Um, and then I've got uh, my writing, and I'm launching a public speaking career on neurodiversity. And so I actually meet with my uh, coaching team for speaking tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited. So, so yeah, every day is a little different. Just kind of depends on you know what pops up, and typically like on weekends, I don't know, it's a little bit more of the same. I try not to be too much in my work, but and my partner's over here on the other side of the computer on his computer. Um, Try to give him a little bit of time. So,
So when with what you do, and we're in a world that it in my opinion is not enough togetherness. It's
mhm.
like we see more divisiveness. So what are some things you could just kind of put out there to us as people, just as people in general, maybe things that we can kind of be considerate of to in by way of being considerate of
Right.
others.
Yeah. Well, so over the past 18 months, I've been on this kind of personal crusade to kind of discover myself. All right. And it started off with authenticity. I came out as uh, basically gay a year and a half ago. Told my wife of 20 years 4 days later. um, and a lot of pain, but I'd never been happy in my life. Not totally happy. Always kind of low grade depression, And so I started thinking about authenticity 18 months ago in the hot tub of my old house, and I started realizing that the world is craving authenticity. When we listen to music, when we watch TV, um, at least the things that I gravitate to are the stuff that's kind of real and authentic. Um, and then that started getting me thinking about vulnerability and empathy and community. And so when we're talking about togetherness, right? Um, there is a lot of pain out there. In fact, I'm getting a phone call right now from Kay Fox. He owns a radio station here in Atlanta. I was talking to him earlier today, and we were talking about um, the pain that's out there. Everyone's hurting. Um, Black people are hurting. They're angry at white people. White people are angry at people being angry at them. And I think they're kind of angry at being guilty of themselves, to be honest with you. I can speak, obviously, I am qualified there. Um, Everyone's yelling at, the MAGAs and the Republicans, and they're yelling back at, you know, women, trans, and then you got everything else in the world, right? And so, but what I noticed over the past year, first of all, do you know what the Merriam-Webster word of the year was for 2023? The dictionary.
I don't.
Authenticity.
Wow.
So 18 months ago, I said, if the world craves authenticity, then what I will do is be the most authentic person in the world. And therefore, people will crave me. I mean, not me, but whatever I produce. And I had this vision of having a talk show. And I'm literally in my hot tub going, one day, Ludacris is going to sit in this hot tub and have a conversation with me. So I live in Atlanta, right? And I was just kind of making stuff up in my head, but it kind of started sinking in that, well, maybe this is a possibility. And maybe it's not Ludacris, but just talking and connecting with people. And that, I got to tell you, the journey is the craziest journey that I could have ever imagined over the past 18 months. Um, I started a record label. I started dating a black man from the Bronx. Um, I went bankrupt. I'm not going to say I was homeless, but I did live in some extended stay hotels for a few months as we were trying to get our shit together. And a year ago, I quit my $400,000 a year job as a chief technology officer. Um, Whereas I could have actually been making more like 700,000, but I just wasn't motivated. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I quit. I said, I can't do this. I got diagnosed as bipolar 1. I spent a week in a psych hospital over Christmas. Um, and it, I couldn't have predicted anything on this journey at all. Right. And the closer I got to zero, which I guess was probably like my biggest fear in life. I've always been very security minded. Right. I grew up poor, um, and suffered uh, a lifetime of really not having a lot of self confidence, but enough self confidence that I had a great career as a chief technology officer. I have patents. I've been in 50 countries. I had a great career, but I always thought in my mind I could have done better and that I compromised in various areas. And so I decided a year and a half ago, I'm not going to compromise anymore at all. Um, but I didn't really understand what that meant until the choices I made. I made some really poor choices, which led to bankruptcy. I got ripped off for $50,000 from a couple scammers in the music industry. Um, and I hurt my family. I mean, my relationship with my kids is strained. Um, although I think they understand dad had to do this, but it's still painful, right? And the way I explained it to them was, there's a reason you put the oxygen mask on yourself on the airplane before you put it on your kids. Because if you're not right, they're not going to be right. Right. So you got to get that oxygen in you. And that's kind of what the past 18 months have been to me, really, oxygen. And the closer I got to zero, the happier I got. And I'm going, huh. I used to have a 25 to $30,000 a month spend in my household.
What?
Private school for kids, for three kids, $2 million mansion, which was an oasis, beautiful. I mean, just it's a sanctuary, and I do miss it, but it was a little over the top. Um, great vacations. I had a Tesla. She had a BMW, and I had to stop paying taxes because we couldn't make it. Um, even on a combined income of over $500,000 a year. All right. Um, and over the past year, in losing everything, my expenses are maybe 2 grand a month now. And not having that pressure, you know, um, is is freeing. Now I don't have the pool, I don't have the hot tub, I don't have the basement where I could dance and listen to music at full volume. Uh, but I don't need that. And what I value is creativity, and I value talking to people and getting to know them. Because what I found, and get this, so part of, even though I quit my job, and a lot of people look at me and go, Steve, you haven't done anything. I said, well, I've done a lot of things, and I thought I was going to go into this business and this business, and I didn't. And you can look at that as failure. I kind of look at it as experimentation. And yeah, there was a little failure in there, but it turned out maybe that's not what I really wanted to do. So I just had to try it out, learn what I could learn from it. I have talked to 2,000 different people in the past 18 months. Now, for let 15 to 20 minutes each.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 to 4 months of full-time work, 40-hour weeks of talking to people. A whole bunch of people I met them at clubs, I met them at industry events in the music business. And then I drove Uber for a while. So I had a lot of great conversations there. I did 1,500 Uber rides. About 500 of those were real conversations. And then I've talked to a lot of people online. And what it's allowed me to do is learn from these people. Hopefully they learn from me. But now I kind of read people like a book. I mean, you talk to 2,000 people, you start seeing patterns, right? You start seeing, I just realized I'm looking at your eyes on the screen, but the camera's right here. I'm still learning, just like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so in talking to people, high and low from all backgrounds, um, scientists to cooks, I probably ran into 5 assholes out of 2,000 people, which I could have never predicted. I would have thought that number was really high. And what it made me realize is the people that we consider assholes and jerks or whatever, are the ones that tend to get our attention. And people that can get your attention are people you can potentially love, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because attention is happiness. So wherever you put your attention is what's bringing you happiness, or maybe future happiness. All right. And if somebody's annoying you, you have people in your life that kind of annoy you, but you still don't cut them off. And you're just like, I don't know if I want to talk to them. But then you talk to them and it's kind of okay. But then the next time you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk to them. You know that?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I found out of 2,000 conversations is those are the people that you need to lean into, because there's one little bit of information that either you believe or they believe that's separating you from agreement. It's kind of a, you'd be like, but they're annoying me on this, this, and this. It's like, no, the reason they're annoying you is there's one little piece of information that has flipped the positives to negative, right? And once you learn what they know, or vice versa, a light bulb's going to go off, and you're going to be like, "Oh, I get it. Yeah, you're right," because they were thinking something more negative than they really were. And so, the misery that we have as a society, getting back to your original question about togetherness, and I've seen this so much online. So, in my in-person conversations, five assholes, right? So
Mhm.
let's call that 1,500 conversations. And the reason they were like, one guy got mad because I wouldn't take him back across town. And I'm like, dude, you only paid for a one-way ride and it's rush hour. I'm going this way, not that way. And he gets mad at me. I'm like, all right. Was he an asshole? Yeah. But also he was frustrated. Right. And he was going to have to pay extra money to get a different Uber driver. And so I understand. In the end, the people that I've argued with the most are online.
Mm.
Because when you're talking in person like we are now,
Mhm.
I'm getting visual cues from your face. You're nodding your head, right? I'm not getting any cues that you're like wanting me to shut up yet, or that you're ready to talk, right? Because if you
Mhm.
were, I could kind of tell it, right? You'd be doing eye movements, right?
Mhm.
Online, I can't do that. Now, if this were just a
Mhm.
phone call and we didn't see each other's face, then you're going to be giving me verbal cues. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Like you're just doing now, right?
Mhm.
Online, you don't see any of that. You see 280 characters or whatever post, and that's all the information you get. And it's very easy for you to read a sentence and think that I wrote it from a negative perception. So I have been banned or blocked by Trump supporters, by trans advocates, by women's advocates, by neurodiversity advocates. And I'm about to start public speaking on neurodiversity. So I'm very pro neurodiversity because I am very neurodiverse myself. Yet, because of a series of online postings between us, it immediately escalated from 0 to 100,
Mm.
right? Because I said something that they interpreted wrong. They immediately labeled me as a bigot or whatever it was, ableist. I had to go look that up. I mean, I'd heard it before, but I said, I need the real definition of this because, um, and once you start going down that path, there's almost no way to pull it back except to either just disengage completely, which you can't do because you just got to answer, right? Got to defend yourself. And we devolve into name calling and pigeonholing people online like that. Um, I posted something that said, "Hey, I'm interested in knowing, the current issues for women in the workforce because I'm doing it." And basically, I said, and because as a 30-year long C-level executive, I can still get into rooms that you can't get into, right?
Mhm.
And I would like to represent you in those rooms the best way possible. Now, you get some people going, "Oh man, that's great." But then you get some saying, "We don't need your help. Why do you think you need to come here and save us?" And I'm going, I said I wanted to help because I can get in rooms you can't get into. Now, if that's not a true statement, then stop me. But we know it's true, right? Um, I've had black women block me because they thought I was being a white savior. And I understand that. But the thing is, I've gotten that from every side. And when I immediately said I am an ally, right? But people are so tuned and so angry, right? And hurt. They're coming from a place of hurt because the last 99 cis white men that talked to them like this maybe did what they said, right? Um, but what it's also done is it's taught me triggers. In fact, I was talking to my partner about this last night, and I was explaining one of these posts, and he's like, "Well, why would you say that?" I'm like, "I know, because my post was, hey, I'm here to help. I can get in rooms you can't get in. Let's work together." And he pointed out to me, you kind of need to have consent to tell somebody you want to work with them. You got to establish some rapport. And I don't make those kind of posts anymore. So the whole thing has been kind of a learning lesson to me. But now it's so easy to spot in what other people do. You can just see them you can see them misinterpret each other. It's a lot harder to misinterpret a face-to-face conversation because there's emotional information that I get from your body language, that I get from your voice, right? And if we were in person, I would see the full body language. Are you sitting back, kind of going, huh? Right? Are you fidgeting and looking at the clock? All that stuff, every little thing has meaning. And I used to think some of that was kind of BS, to be honest with you. But it's not, because your subconscious, this is what I've learned. Your subconscious is nothing but your true feelings. That's all your subconscious is. There is no separate subconscious. Your subconscious is what you actually feel. And the only things in the world that you actually feel are acceptance and rejection. And that's it. At the core, those are the feelings, right? Emotions are things that you put on top of your feelings because of what you believe. So if I reject you, you could think, well, Steve's got a lot more experience in this, and so he doesn't think I'm ready. That would be one way to interpret my rejection. Or you could say, who the fuck does he think he is? Doesn't he know who I am? Right? He doesn't know what I've lived through. Same reaction from me, different emotions from you, depending on what you believe about yourself. Are you worthy? Are you not worthy? What you believe about me. Am I worthy to judge you? Am I not worthy to judge you? And then the topic. Is this important, or do I not give a crap? Right? The combination of those things, every single time, I can nail what your emotion is going to be if I know the answers to those questions. Because anger takes a lot of forms. It can be annoyance, it can be fury, right? It could be outrage. So it's got these dimensions. Protest is a form of anger, but protest is more like a declaration. And you'll respond either in protest or anger, depending on what you think my motivation is. Does it make sense? And so I'm working on kind of this decision matrix that says, based on the beliefs of the two people involved in a conversation, just answer these questions, and here's the emotion that's going to be shown. And I wrote an article that says, every person in the world is a narcissist when you feel unfairly judged. So my ex-wife calls me a narcissist. And I'm like, I did nothing but support that woman. So why would she think that? I think she's a narcissist. Because every time she got attacked in the family, she would make it about us. That's what narcissists do, right? Well, I started analyzing what I wrote to her. And I said, fuck, I'm a narcissist. Because even though I was telling her, if you quit your job and go into consulting, you will make $1 million a year. This woman runs influencer marketing for one of the largest software companies in the world. That is like one of the most in-demand marketing, positions everyone needs. And she's got 30 years of, she's amazing at it. She has real relationships with all these people. So she's got empathy. Yet in certain situations, she doesn't. And what I realized is even though I was telling her, you can make $1 million a year, you can write a book. If you do this on your podcast, it will go viral. I even told her, she was doing something. I said, look, being the corporate mom, that's not enough for you. You have a bigger trajectory than being branded the corporate mom. Now, if that's what you want to do, that's okay. But I'm telling you, you can be a superstar. But even though I realized this like 2.5 months ago, and I apologized to her when I realized this, I still thought I was better than her talent wise, brain wise. And I realized as I was thinking about narcissism, I said, oh my God, I think I'm smarter than my wife. Yet the theories that I'm working on, my neuropsychology theories, say if you accept yourself 100%, your IQ goes up. And any of us can be geniuses, that we are wired to be geniuses. And the only thing that screws us up is the belief that we're broken and that we're not. Think of that. And I'm going to get a little biblical. Is that all right?
Yes, please.
I figure you're from Mississippi, so that's probably a safe bet. Yeah, I'm from Georgia. So, and then just so you know, I'm not a Christian, but I used to be. And I am a fan of Jesus. All right. The only verse in the Bible that I think you even need is John 13:34. Jesus said, for I give unto you a new commandment. Love yourself as much as I love you.
Mm.
And then he said, love other people as I love them. Now, on the Sermon on the Mount, back in Matthew, they said, Jesus, what's the biggest commandment? And he said, what do you say? Like, love your Lord, your God with all your heart and your might. And then he said, love others as you love themselves. And I literally wrote an article saying Jesus missed a step because he told us to love God 100%, right? And then he said, love your neighbors like you love yourself. Well, what if I don't love myself?
Wow.
Because here's another truth that I realized. You can only love other people as much as you love yourself because we all love ourselves more than anything in the world. We're wired to. Even though we may be of service to people, we're getting joy from that. And we get accolades, right? It makes us feel good, right? And so loving yourself is not selfish. It's just how you're built. But the thing is, you only love as much of yourself as you accept. So, for example, I had shame around being gay. Yet I have 3 kids that are bi, trans, and queer. And do I care about that in the least? Not at all. Did I care when they told me? Not at all. It has never. And to my mom, my 77-year-old mom, to her credit, did the exact same thing when I told her that, hey, uh, the grandson you thought you had is a granddaughter. Now she was surprised, but she said, that doesn't change my feelings one iota. And that's what true love is. But a lot of times we tend to love people that will validate us. And so when I look at my relationships in the past and things like that, my first wife, I married her. I loved her, but I also got a family from her. I got her religion, and I felt like I belonged. But when I realized I wasn't Christian and really came out it, I'm not even going to call it denial. I think I was just lying because I had faked it for so long. It just seemed like, when they asked me to be a deacon, I said, okay, I got to stop. Because next, I'll be a televangelist and making $1 million a day or something. So my second wife, I think I got status. She's stunning, stunning. um, and comes from kind of upper middle class. I grew up poor. So, but she also got status in a man that has 12 patents, that speaks in front of thousands of people, that has gravitas. And that gave her something. But when I stopped believing, and I had to leave my first wife because she's a Christian writer, and I can't be with somebody who truly thinks I'm going to hell, and not in a judging way, in a painful way for her, right? Because she's thinking I'm going to hell. My second wife, when I started changing, it became authentic, and I started doing erratic things because I was in mania and I was on shrooms for 5 months. Yeah. Woo. Um, and I documented it all.
Mm.
I wrote articles. I did live streams. It's out there. And it's a diary of mania with a little bit of psychosis. I, I was doing things that embarrassed her. People were asking her questions. What's going on with Steve? Right? Now, this stature that she had and status went away, and she fell out of love with me. But the thing is, I did too, because I recognized some stuff that she did that I didn't like. It's a two-way street, right? And the whole year I went back and forth at being mad at me or mad at her. Guilt, anger, right? And finally I realized, no, you know, we both contributed to the problems, and we both got to a point where both of us said this is not worth saving. Because if she had wanted to keep the marriage together, she would have moved heaven and earth to make that happen, you know? And I would have too, but I didn't. So when she said it's time to move out, I said, okay. Whereas if I had wanted to be in, I would have been like, I'm not moving out of my house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I analyze people's relationships now and I talk with them, I just see these same patterns over and over and over. Every problem we have with somebody, if we could just sit and actually talk reasonably and allow ourselves to be vulnerable and guilty and shamed, and release it, we could probably be on the same page with almost anyone. Now, I may not want to spend time with you after this because I'm not in love anymore, or as a friend, I don't, you know, it's just not going to work. But at least we leave on equal terms and we're not angry at each other. Right. And so part of what I did in my divorce decree is I gave her 10% of be self evident
Mm.
in perpetuity. Some days I'm like, why did I do that? But other days I'm like, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our 20 years and my three wonderful kids, um, and the pain that she had to suffer when I healed from my brokenness. The problem with us being broken is that when we heal, we hurt other people because they're in love with some idea of us. And once we heal, we're not that idea anymore.
Wow.
And you know what's really wow? I couldn't have said that until this moment. I really literally came to that realization at the same time with you. I,
That's deep.
it is so deep. I'm like, I'm seeing tears in your eyes, and my
Yeah.
eyes are trying not to, right?
Yeah.
Because that is real. And I don't know how to get all this on the page, right? So one of the things I'm struggling with, you asked me how every day is. Every day is like going down the rapids.
I want to tell you that this these are things that we don't get because people are so afraid and we seek their validation.
Oh, yes.
And I can remember um, that I talk to people and I tell myself sometimes if I could take a smidget of the advice that I give
Mhm.
in my brain, I
Right.
could be better.
Yeah.
But you said so many things, and it's like I'm gonna have to go back and like rewatch it
Yeah.
because just to hear just your journey though, this is a real life journey. This is nothing. These are events that you have not planned out to do, and then you still pull yourself together though. And I think that's kind of what's making me kind of emotional. You manage a way to pull yourself together. You're not out here being hateful to people. You're not out here being mean. You're truly sharing your journey, and people get to see that it's not just them.
Right.
Because people think that they have similar stories, and they feel ashamed. They feel no belonging. They feel no purpose.
Right.
We go through those where we feel like it's only us. We go through things, and it's kind of like these are things that we need.
Yeah.
And I'm just like in awe right now because that is being self-evident.
Right. Right.
And outside of that being self-evident, hearing and listening, you're teaching people how, like in this moment. You're teaching people that, you know, like I shared with somebody earlier, I'm like, my dream, part of my dream is not to wait till I'm like 60 and 65 to start trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to retire or not. Like, I want to start enjoying a few more things in life. And I've had to condense the amount of time that I work, and I've chosen to make the sacrifice to go without some things. But then that's just a small portion of it.
Right.
Another part of the portion is I always wanted to know if I'm gonna be likable enough or acceptable enough
Right.
in
Yeah.
whatever in whatever. And then I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you. But if we be truly who we are, if we be real,
Mhm.
if we be authentic, if I don't have to try to be like Steve. I need to focus on being who Letha is. I need to listen to
Right.
Steve. I need to understand that Steve's journey can help me out. That helps mold me and groom me. But I still have to be who I am.
Right.
And I think that, and I tell people this, so I say this to all people, okay? I say it to Mexican people, Indian people, white people, black people. I say this to everybody. Not pointing the finger. The generation before us meant well.
They did.
But
Eh, eh, eh,
every generation brings a different culture.
Yep.
And I can remember sitting in a meeting with my franchisee, and he's an older man. He's like in his, I think, 80s. And this was like last year. And you listen to people talk, and he said every generation thinks that the generation behind them is more fucked up than the generation that they were.
That is true. So, so I actually have a theory on how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm right, it's really good news. All right.
Okay.
So if you look back 5,000 years ago, those societies were quite vicious. right? Eye for an eye, tooth for, I mean, you screwed up, you're dead, your wife's dead, your kids are dead, your ox are dead. I mean, vengeance, right? And over time, you know, um, you know, every generation discovered things, every generation fucked things up a certain way. But my theory says that no generation passes their specific pain to their kids. So, whatever your hurts were as a child in your life, you will not give your kids those specific hurts. Now, you are hurt in other ways that you don't know, and you're going to pass those on to your kids because they're a part of you, right? If you bite people's heads off and you criticize your kids all the time, that's a hurt that you're just passing on.
Mhm.
And then, but those kids are not going to do the same thing. So let's look at the boomers, right? Our parents. I'm 57. How old are you?
I'm 45.
All right. Are you millennial or Gen X?
I was born in 78. So what am I?
I don't know. You're kind of right in the middle. You're kind of right in the middle, right?
Look, I don't know.
That's I'll claim you for Generation X, but yeah, you're right on the bubble. And
Okay.
so when I came home from school, my mom wasn't home. Now she was when I was a kid between ages 0 and 7. We lived in Germany. My dad's in the military. My mom was with me 100% of the time.
Mm.
My dad, probably 40% of the time, because he was in the Navy, he was out to sea, he was getting drunk, not being home. And when he was home, he was miserable. And then at age 7, we moved to here. My parents got divorced. Now my mom had to work and had a series of boyfriends, that had their good and bad. And, so she's a woman in her late 20s, early 30s, single mom in 1974 when nobody supported single moms because it wasn't a thing back then. It wasn't a thing. I mean, it was, but it just wasn't prevalent enough. So, you know, then it's a series of men that kind of fucked my life up and took away my self confidence, including my father, who at age 10 drunkenly tried to rape me. And I didn't realize that till about 3 months ago through some intense therapy.
Mhm.
And those memories came back and it filled in a moment of my life I had forgotten. I knew the beginning and end of the moment. I never could realize the middle, but I do remember being scared and shamed. Never knew what it was. Once my dad was in the Navy, he was an alcoholic, came home drunk. I was playing with my stepmother's underwear and something snapped and he tried to rape me. And my stepmother came home and caught him in the act, but blame me in the end because that's the only way I can explain what a bitch she is. And my first wife, remember I said was a Christian writer? She
Mhm.
cannot stand my stepmother. And for her to not stand someone, that that's testament right there, right? Because she is afraid to dislike people because God will be angry. You see, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? She's she's scared when she doesn't like people because she feels guilty for not liking them, right? And she detests my stepmother. So there's something in that woman. And I think it all boils down to this one moment I just mentioned when I was 10 years old. Now, when I came to this realization, I was floored and I cried for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then I realized my father never got all the way in. And I forgave him because it explained my shame. Remember, I said I had no shame about my kids and their sexuality. I don't give a fuck. I never really have once I understood what it was, except for me. And I had those urges all my life and just put them over here like they were, oh, that's just a kink. You know what I mean? That's just fantasy because I was protecting myself from that memory. But a year and a half ago, when I had an epiphany that I was gay after having the most earth shattering sexual experience of my life, going, what the fuck was that? I craved that. And then I was like, holy fuck, I'm gay. It took something that monumental on mushrooms to get past my denial. Yet I still, when people said, well, why are you so ashamed? I'm like, I don't know. I can't explain it. Well, now I can. But I was able to forgive my dad because he was drunk. I know he didn't mean to, you know, he was an alcoholic. And I believe my father is in, not even in denial. He's a closeted gay man who hates himself because he grew up in Indiana, Patriots, Hoosiers, God, you know, no way any of his father's kids could be gay. You know, that kind of boomer generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he did pass his pain on to me, but it's because he was out of his mind with alcohol. With a sound mind, he would have never done that. And I would have never had that shame. And I would have realized I was gay when I was 12, like my son did. So the reason I can forgive my father is he didn't know what he was doing. And think of the times of your life where you have hurt people the most. You have hurt some people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was righteous. But at some point, you learn something. Oh, I didn't know she lost her job. I didn't know her father had cancer. I didn't know she was raped. Whatever it is. And as soon as you learn that, what do you start feeling? Guilt.
Yeah, yeah.
And that guilt is equal to the pain that you gave them. It is equal. All right. And this is something I've learned as I've gone through my brain. I mean, I've been reading neuroscience papers and all sorts of stuff. And I realized that Newton was right, Isaac Newton. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so the depth of my emotion are going to drive the depths of yours because you are tuned in, right? We are connected,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you were less accepting of yourself than I was, you would have stopped the conversation already. Because what your subconscious would have done is said, I can't go there. I cannot be that real with Stepen because your beliefs don't accept who you really are. Right. And so my belief was, I'm not gay. That's just a kink. I like cross dressing. I've done it since I was 10 or 11 or 12. In that moment where I realized I was gay, two things disappeared. Three things. My shame, my cross dressing kink, or fetish. It was a fetish. A kink is just something you do for fun. And I like to do that for fun every now and then. But back then, that's all I wanted. Because with that came shame and humiliation. Right. And so that shame and humiliation that I felt was echoed in my fetish. Because here's this masculine man in lingerie, satin with stockings and garters, because I'm a designer and I design things and I want to look good because I want to design how I look. But it brought me shame, except in that moment of sexual gratification where you're exposing all your shame. The other person is accepting it. And what happens to that shame? What happens to your shame when somebody accepts you? It goes away. And what's it replaced with? An equal amount of additional joy, because that shame is putting you underwater. You get rid of that shame, you're now above water where you belong. Equal and opposite reaction, right? So when you hurt someone, the depth of your guilt is going to equal, if at all possible, the pain that you at least believe you gave them. And that's why when people hurt their kids, I mean, that just weighs on us. I mean, I have a time where my son, youngest son, got me so agitated with my other daughter, my trans daughter. I tapped the brakes in my car and he bumped his head. And as soon as it happened, I was like, what the fuck did I just do? I did that on purpose because I was angry at him for not taking the conversation seriously because he was playing around. He was doing whatever. He's a kid. I shouldn't be judging him on that. That was a failure on my part. And I told him this about 3 weeks ago. I said, hey, I got to just tell you this. I have this guilt for this one incident. And he goes, yeah, I kind of remember it. I said, I know. I said, but I got to just tell you, the pain that I heard in your voice when you asked me, Dad, why did you do this? I can see it now. And this doesn't occupy my thoughts. But what I've realized is as you accept yourself 100%, you accept others 100%, you're two things happen. Well, three things. Your brain makes dopamine. When you are not thinking and processing negative thoughts, your brain makes dopamine. And what does dopamine do? It gets you high. When you take crystal meth, your dopamine goes way up. When you smoke pot, your dopamine goes up. When you have cigarettes, your dopamine goes up. When you degrade yourself and you know pay to be humiliated, oh, for a moment, that dopamine goes up because that shame is lifted and immediately your dopamine goes up. The other thing my theory says, and I'm working with a neuropsychologist on this, a PhD. So she doesn't think I'm crazy, right? And I got to say that because people are like, well, what credentials do you have? It's like, well, I have a 200 IQ and I can read and I can talk to people. That's what I can do. And that's all learning is, talking to people, doing things, reading. All right. I just derailed myself because I was heading to a
Dopamine.
dopamine. Now, when you process negative thoughts, there's a part of your brain called the VTA, sits right above your brain stem. So your brain processes 12 megabits of information a second in your senses, which is about the same data rate needed for a high def movie. So all the sensory data in your body fits into a high def movie. It's probably more. They'll probably discover it's a higher bit rate, but that's nothing. I got this right here, this old hard drive, right, would store millions and millions of those moments. All right. Your brain is just in, 12 megabits is nothing in modern computing at all. Like, and I believe our brain takes those 12 megabits that we get and it just records every moment of our life in 100% detail because that's the simplest mechanism for memory. Why would memory be why would it be more complex than that? Because every time I look in the universe, I find simple patterns that describe everything. All right. So we've already talked tonight about a decision tree for what emotion I'll show to your emotion, or actually to your acceptance or rejection. Because if I reject you and you accept my rejection, you learn. Well, Steve said I wasn't good enough in this topic yet, which means I have more to learn. That means you trust me and you believe I know more about the topic than you do. But if you think you do know more than me, that same rejection is going to be jealousy. It could be anger. It could be rage if I thought you were really beneath me. But the thing is, I wouldn't even think that I thought you were beneath it. Like that doesn't come into your, we don't think like that about most people, right? But your subconscious always knows your true feelings, and your subconscious is always going to do what it wants to do. That is why when we try to do things that go against our true nature, we fuck up. I think your body just doesn't commit 100% and says, you know, to protect your real feelings. And sometimes that's awkward. Sometimes that could be a fit of rage. It could be a murder. It's your brain going, you know, I cannot process this rejection. And is the rejection internal, which means it comes from my thoughts? I'm rejecting myself. Is it external, which means it's coming from another person or a tiger running at me who is going to reject my life? Right? That's the ultimate rejection. And your brainstem processes that kind of stuff. If your life is on the line, your brainstem takes over and you just start running, or you hit the ground, right? And play dead, or whatever it is you need to do. It's instant, right? That's your brainstem. So all these signals are coming in, 12 megabits a second, come into your head. And now it goes to the limbic system, the amygdala. All right. Actually, the amygdala is the one that actually determines, do I need to run or whatever. And your brain assigns what's called a valence to what it's feeling. And valence is strength. All right. And so when you look at the sexiest person in your life, your valence goes really high, right? You start getting urges and desires. When your child is hurt, you get an urge and desire to help that child, and your valence is high. When your life is on the line, your valence is at its highest, except when the life of the people you love is online. That's actually worse. I'm right. Mm-hmm. And the next one would be when civilization is on the line. And that is why I believe over the next 7 years, we as a culture and a world are going to rapidly heal, because we've reached the point, to circle back to your original question, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do. Togetherness. We have reached the point where a majority of people in the world are unhappy with how the world is. And their valence to fix it is on the rise. Because I'm looking at social media and I'm seeing post after post where people say, hey, we're all one. Do you see it? Mm-hmm. And I see it in conversations like this, mm-hmm. which if we market this right, you and I both know that this video will go viral, because there's more truth in this conversation than people get in a lifetime. Right? Correct. Do you feel it?
I do. I do.
So I'm going to stop talking a bit and get something to drink here, and I'm going to let you talk.
Well, I don't want to take away from what you have said.
You don't need to
Um,
worry about that at all. You say whatever you want to say.
I just know that it's much needed.
Hmm.
I think that anybody needs to hear it. Um, I think a lot of these younger people need to hear it. I think a lot of family people need to hear it. I think a lot of men need to hear it. Women need to hear it. I think a lot of church folk need to hear it. I just think people just need to hear it because it's also in a setting where the conversation can actually be had and the conversation can be held without the interruption and without somebody jumping in and trying to tell the other person, well, let me tell you how I and this brings me again. I can remember some years ago I was in church and we had this meeting at church before COVID, and they brought this preacher in, and you could just hear people rattling because they brought somebody in, kind of it's like a leadership segment. This one thing that this man said has always stuck with me. His thing was the problem with people is the word reason. People don't know how to reason with one another. The moment we start disagreeing with people, that's when we start having problems.
The reason we have problems is we misinterpret people's rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, we make them feel shame and guilt about things they felt. And we cannot change how we feel about anything, right? I can't change my belief that there isn't a God to one there is. I can't. Now, am I open to learning something one day? Yes. However, I thought about this since I was 12. I'm 57. I think I've thought through every possible scenario, especially in the last year. And get this, the reason I got into a psych hospital is I allowed my car to crash into a building. Now, I didn't try to hit the building. I had a 50-50 chance of hitting the building or going in the woods. But I said, if I'm going to test my belief that acceptance of everything, acceptance of everything for the greater good is true, then the only way I can prove that to myself is to put my life at risk. But then I said, and I wrote this down an hour before this happened. I said, my subconscious, which are my true feelings, will not allow me to really injure myself. All right. Because remember, I said your subconscious are your feelings that you cannot change. Right. And so I was thinking, okay, well, as I'm driving, well, where could I hit where it's not that big of a deal? And then I realized I can't plan to let go. Right. If I'm going to surrender, I can't plan to surrender. I just got to surrender. And so I got my valence went way up because this was my life on the line now. And I saw that there was no traffic coming, big road, gentle slope. It seemed scary at the time because it was the dark, but the slope was actually not bad. All right. And a building and nothing. And I just said, I let go. I sat back in my seat. My seat was already all the way back. I'd kind of subconsciously done that 10 minutes before as I was trying to get all comfortable. And my seat was all the way back. I let go. And my car crosses the line. And I start screaming to myself, holy shit. Because I'm actually doing this. Right. And then I hit the curb, right? Because I'm going across this divided 4-lane road. right? So pretty wide. At a downward angle, I'm going down a hill in a Tesla. You got to know my Tesla goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. This thing is a rocket. So I hit the curb, boom, and I'm airborne just a little bit. And I start going, what the fuck, Steven? I'm yelling to myself, what the fuck? Like I'm mad at myself because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Right? I mean, this is crazy. That's what I'm telling myself. And bam, we hit the ground and the car's going. It hits concrete again. And I can tell it's starting to veer toward the building. But this is a Tesla, the safest car on the road. The battery on the Tesla's in the bottom, which means it's not going to flip over. I would have to hit like the side of a boulder. You know what I mean? Hitting a curb is not going to flip that car because 1,000 pounds of weight on the bottom of the car, right? And so the other thing about a Tesla, it brakes really fast because when you let go of the accelerator, immediately magnets in the car grab the wheels and recharge the battery and slow the wheels down automatically. So Tesla drivers, their brakes last 6 times longer than normal drivers because we don't use them. My car starts slowing the fuck down. And I'm going, this is a split second. I'm just going to tap the building. So I hit the accelerator all the way. 0 to 60. I hit the wall at 50 miles an hour. If I'd not hit the accelerator, I probably would have hit it at like 8 miles an hour and just done enough damage to be annoying. But here's what I said when I hit that accelerator and I realized I am past the point of no return. Even if I try to hit the brakes right now, it's going to be bad. When I hit that moment, I started screaming out, God, save me. And I meant it. Now, my partner just said, because I guess he is listening, he said, but you don't believe in God. In that moment, I did when it mattered. And guess what? I walked away without a scratch. I had a bruise, not a scratch. And the police came, did a breathalyzer. My partner came, strangers came. Because when I hit the wall, I opened my eyes and there's an airbag in front of me. My car's dented. It was totaled, by the way. I made money from it getting totaled. It's kind of coming out in my financial favor. But I was like, I started screaming, like, fuck yeah, I did it. I knew I wasn't going to die. The only part of my body that hurt is the tip of my cheekbone right here, which is the most vulnerable part of your body. Because if it had pushed a little bit more, it might have just broken my face. Because I hit a wall at 50 miles an hour, right? And, and I went home. An hour later, I started getting worried because I started feeling weird in my head. And I said, what if I have a concussion? And I tell my partner, hey, I'm getting, I'm feeling this. I'm worried about this. And, he's like, well, call 911. And so he did. And he's told him what was happening. They came. And because I'm talkative, because I was in so much mania and I was so happy that I had proven to myself that I am not a coward and I am willing to face death for what I believe. I didn't try to kill myself, but it was possible. And and could have been probable. What if I had hit the middle of the building on the corner? I don't know. You know, any number of things could have happened and it would have been really bad. And so I will never have to do that again. And I don't want to. All right. And it wasn't fair for what it put my partner through and my family and my friends. An hour later, we call 911 and I'm talking to them and they're asking me what happened. I tell them about the accident. And because I'm so high on dopamine that I produce myself, because I was so happy, because I said, I believe in myself 100%, 100%. And I didn't think that was possible. But 2 hours before the crash, I finally came to the conclusion the only way for me to believe in myself 100% is to test myself 100%. Well, how do you test yourself 100%? To be or not to be? That is the question. And so the ambulance person thought I was crazy. I don't think the ambulance person even thought there was an accident because I didn't have a scratch on my body at the time. They called the ER and said, we got a cuckoo coming in. They never even hooked me up to any sort of, they didn't do the IV. They didn't do the normal things you would do when you get checked into the ER, right? They always hook you up to the machine. Beep, right? They're taking your heart, your blood pressure every 20 minutes. I'm 57. I've had major surgeries, They didn't do that, but it didn't even cross my mind why they weren't. I started getting more agitated because they were not taking me seriously. I started realizing that, right? I'm like, guys, I had an accident, blah, 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 blah. No one asked me how fast I was going. Okay, yeah, you hit a building and there's nothing wrong with me. And I'm complaining that I could possibly have a concussion because I had this accident. They never checked. All right. That alone is probably something I can sue them on. I don't know. At least to be a nuisance and get a settlement because they ignored the reason we called 911, which means they ignored my partner who initiated the call. And they believed the guy that they thought was crazy. You see the irony in there? Well, we believe the guy that says he's crazy. We're not going to go talk to the person that called 911 for him because the hospital that they took me to was my former doctor was there and the contact was my ex-wife. They never asked me who my contact was. They just assumed it was my wife. They never asked me. That's a violation right there because they called my ex-wife who has no medical authority whatsoever in my life. And I half suspect she said, yeah, he needs help, which kind of makes her guilty of having me imprisoned for 7 days. It's so, I mean, the comedy kind of writes itself, doesn't it? Because that's kind of like, from the ex-wife's point of view, it's like, yeah, fuck you. And it's brilliant. I mean, look, I had it call been reversed, I would have been hard pressed not to say she needs help. Right. So I can't be that mad about it. But I still kind of want to know because if the hospital did it, they violated my rights. And so patient rights is something that I'm interested in also advocating, not just because of that, but because they put me in the psych hospital and I didn't see a psychiatrist until the 6th day of my incarceration. I missed Christmas, my first Christmas with my partner.
Oh my.
he was so upset that friends had to come stay with him while I was incarcerated. He was so angry and upset. And here I was in my prison thinking, why didn't he fight for me at the hospital? Well, it turned out he did. And they probably threatened him with arrest because my partner is a black man from the projects in the 1980s Bronx. Warriors come out and play. You remember that? Remember that movie? You may not. You may be too young. All right. But it's like a futuristic version of the Bronx where it was even worse than, the 1980s Bronx just sucked. Did it suck, babe? Mm-hmm. That man will fight lions for me. Even if I'm wrong. That's who you want to be with. Because if you're not with somebody who's willing to be with you even when you're wrong, they don't love all of you. What you want is you want somebody that loves not only all the you that you know, but the you that you want to be. Think of that. And I literally came up with a way to do that. And that is to put yourself out as authentically as possible and tell everything. Leave nothing out. Nothing, even if it's embarrassing. Because if you put yourself out 100% like that, they will find you. Just like I found you on podcast guest, right?
Yes.
Whatever I said was the right set of words that you, with the high set of standards, because there's a lot of people on there saying, I'm a this coach and I'm a that. I'm like, please God, I do not want another growth consultant, right? And I understand the need for them, but we're dealing with issues of the heart here,
Yes.
not commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
I learned a cool statement from a guy who is currently my enemy, yet I respect. And once he realizes that he disrespected me and not the other way around, that one piece of information will flip his entire demeanor because he's brilliant. And he taught me a phrase: cash is not my currency.
Okay.
And I was like, damn, that's some good stuff, right? He also has a brilliant mind for music. He actually gave a friend of mine, I'd known this guy 3 days, American Idol uh, top 10 finalist, Rodney Barber, Mr. R&B, who I met buying a meal for a homeless man. He leans over
Mm-hmm.
the counter and says, doing good deeds? I said, yeah. We talked for 5 hours. I got in trouble when I got home because my ex-wife was embarrassed that I came in at 6 a.m. And here I've had the most amazing conversation of my life with a guy that was on TV singing, and we talked poetry, and we decided we would write a song together. And I'm going, wow, that's a dream come true. I'm a new poet, and now I'm going to be writing a song that I might hear one day that somebody I can stream. Just
Mm-hmm.
that was the extent of my musical dream. 3 days later, I randomly meet this guy, Knox Bonds, and we start talking poetry and rapping. And he tells me he's got a label, he's got 1,000 DJs, he breaks new stars, and he is a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
And I read him some of my poetry. He said, "You got really good rhyming and flow. You need to do multi-syllable rhyming. You need to memorize it and deliver it with emotion, and you can be a great rapper." And then Rodney shows up because I called him and said, "Let's go to dinner." And I introduced this guy. I say, Rodney, pretend this man is Simon Cowell because he knows Simon Cowell, right?
Okay.
Because he was on American Idol.
Mhm.
And he starts going, sitting in the morning sun. I'll be sitting when the evening comes. I can't remember, like 2,000 miles I roam to call this dock my home. Mm. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time all day. All right, I can't remember the lyrics. I couldn't sing 18 months ago. How did I do? A
You did pretty
cappella.
good. You did pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, keep going. Really good.
Yeah.
Now you
Yeah.
could can you sing?
No, I'm all right. I can half carry a tone, but I'm all
If I told you, now remember I have a record label.
right. Mm-hmm.
Now do you know who my producer is for one of my projects?
Cool.
He is the head of A&R, the head of talent for Outkast.
Oh, wow.
He is my producer on a project that's being built on top of Outkast music. I'm adding to their tracks and doing
Okay.
my own mix with their head of talent at their studios for free. What does that tell you about my producer's opinion of what I can deliver?
It actually tells me that based off his opinion, he's just know it's gonna do well. He's know
And
you're gonna do well.
when it does well, who's he going to play the music for? Outcasts.
Mhm.
And because it meets his approval, it will meet their approval.
Their approval.
And I predict in the second quarter of this year, I will be collaborating with Outcasts because of that. And because that's how I read the politics and the mechanisms. And at
Hmm.
each point, there's a decision that says, well, am I going to be bold enough to take the next step? And are they going to accept what I propose? And at any point, if they say no, it's over, right? So it doesn't mean what I'm saying is going to happen, but I've just given a logical set of steps that if those all happen, it will happen. So I just decided to start living my life by a new rule, and that is I will make the decisions I need to make to be the richest and happiest man in the world. Now think of that. Now, I am already going to have a meeting with Kanye West the second quarter of this year in May because my friend IA, who was one of the only people that stick with me through my label, and while he did take advantage of me, he did it because he felt that his way would work faster and make us both rich. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that until he confessed to me the final crime that I knew he had done and taken advantage of me when my mind was psychotic on shrooms. He made me believe that I was texting Kevin Liles, the co founder of Def Jam Records. Like, why would that motherfucker be texting me at 2 a.m. in language that a businessman of his stature would not be using? I knew all this, yet I wanted it to be true. So for a little while, it was true in my mind, and that's called psychosis. But I'm very logical, and it kept gnawing at me, and I was like, no, that's not him. And I kind of went back and forth, and so I'm kind of embarrassed to say that there were times I actually believed it was Kevin Liles, and I said some audacious things that had it actually been Kevin Liles, we'd probably be in business together. Does that make sense? That's how audacious
Hmm.
some of this is. So I, I've learned that just follow your happiness wherever it goes without ceasing. You will get high, Like I'm high as a kite right now, but it's not off any substance. This is off of the dopamine that my brain is making because I am having no negative thoughts. You are giving me no negative feedback. You haven't given me any negative feedback the entire conversation, right? There's not been a, there's been a few kind of like, where's this going? But especially around the car thing, you're like, okay, this fool crashing his car into a building floor. I don't know, man. Sounds like white privilege because I made money. I'm making money off of that. And get this. I told you I'm filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Look, I do not present as a poor man, but I'm filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which means you got to be really poor. Yeah, okay, whatever. Lawyer over there. See, he's just telling me I made some bad mistakes. I am poor. Yes, most people file bankruptcy, I would consider poor, except Donald Trump. So you know what? No, you know what? I'm going to choose to say no. I meant to do this. I meant to lose everything and owe 400 grand and to make no money and to almost be homeless. Um, and to have insecurities that most people in society have that I haven't had since I was 16. Because since I was 16, I had a magical career. I made $15 million in my life. I mean, I lived in East Point, Georgia. The bad part, right? I was poor, and so you know, poor to rich, back to poor. It it humbled me, and I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing because what this failure and descent into madness did is it humbled me. And what I took away from the psych hospital was how poorly the patients are treated. They didn't even give us our patient rights in writing like they're supposed to. Yet every person I talked to said, you didn't get your patient rights? No. Well, they're supposed to put it on your clipboard if you don't get it. Not one patient had their thing. And so they finally got me one where it said I could file a 1010 and voluntarily say I want to leave. Well, I'm like, well, this would have been nice to know a few days ago, right? And I looked at the
Mm-hmm.
date, last updated July 2019,
What?
almost 5 years ago. Now, what does that tell you about that organization? They don't give a fuck about patient rights. They are milking people for insurance days.
That insurance.
All right. And in the end, they do an okay job.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally met the psychiatrist, it was one of the most profound 45-minute conversations I've ever had. As he explained to me what bipolar 1 with psychotic tendencies meant. And he said, "You're a genius." He says, "It's obvious by my conversation with you that you're smarter than I am." That's what bipolar 1 mania is. He goes, "However, if you keep it at 10, you'll burn yourself out and you'll never get anything accomplished because you're just going to keep getting more and more manic." He said, "But if you can keep it between 8 and 9, he said, there's no limit to what you can do."
Mm-hmm.
And here's a psychiatrist basically telling me, yeah, you're smart as fuck. And you do have a tendency to possibly get a little bit crazy. But I see no reason to keep you here, except I'd like you to take a different sleeping pill and get a really good night's sleep because you really need that, especially when you're manic. And I said, okay. Very disappointed that I wasn't getting out that day, but I was like, okay, you know what? I trust him because in that whole 7 days I was incarcerated,
Mhm.
That's the 45 minutes I needed to have. So why couldn't we have had that on the second day? Or even when I was brought in, we could have saved a whole bunch of money.
Mhm.
They don't want
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
And that's the problem with healthcare. So, all right. So where do you, uh, how are you doing on time? What do you want to do here?
We
Uh,
good.
I
Time
had,
it time.
well, I had one thing I wanted to follow up on,
Okay.
and it gets down to your generational statement. Remember?
Okay. Mhm.
So my theory is we don't give the same pain to our kids. So as Gen X, my mom wasn't there between 3 and 6.
Mhm.
Some nights she had to work late. I ate a lot of TV dinners. I almost burned the apartment down. I almost electrocuted myself when I put wires in the outlets. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I fell out of a tree and came this close to having a concussion. I couldn't breathe for like a minute and thought I was going to die. Right? That shit happened to us because our parents couldn't be there because they were the first generation where they both had to work. And remember at the time, no support for working mothers, and the women's livers. Oh my God, they were all over the the moms. It's almost a sin to stay home with your kids, right? You got to work because of feminism.
Mhm.
And so the tide shifted there for a while. And so, um, we had lawn darts. We got paddled at school.
I did too.
I did too.
I did too. I got paddlings. I stayed getting paddling.
And my choir teacher tried to molest me.
Wow.
And I adored that man. I still do. I did out him because he's now MAGA. And I'm like, well, if you're going to lie, here's the truth. I did it in a
Mhm.
poem. I did it. So, um, what, let me do the generation thing. So, because of the pain that we had, what did we do to our kids? We went to every event at their school. We went to their soccer practice. We gave them participation trophies so none of them would be sad. We did that, right? We gave them kindergarten and eighth grade graduation. What the fuck's up with that, right? And now all of us Gen Xers look at them and go, participation trophies. And, you know, we gave it to them. We did it because we smothered our kids with love. And,
Mhm.
and the reason they're so tender is they didn't have to build up those shells that we built up when we almost killed ourselves. And we explored every inch of our house. We found our parents' dirty magazines. I found my mom's vibrator. I found her underwear. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know I was gay. Could have saved myself a lot of trouble. Um, but we didn't we didn't turn that over to our kids. Likewise, my kids didn't have to worry about being poor. They grew up without a care for anything. They've been in South Africa, Morocco, France, Greece, London. Uh, They've been in Canada, Mexico. We've taken them all over. They've had amazing experiences. I have a beautiful video of my youngest son. You know those boats on the Seine River in Paris? Those big white boats, right? We
Mhm.
were on one of those, and my son is outside on the boardwalk, just doing this dance, like it's just amazing. He is just loving life, and I'm loving life for him, right? Because that's
Mhm.
just you want to see your kids like that. The problem is my son has forgotten that that is who he is, and when people remember a level of happiness
Mhm.
and life situation has knocked them down
Mhm.
and they can't see a way back to that happiness,
Mhm.
they get depressed. Depression is our sadness that this differentiation of where we were once and where we are now. And because our belief in ourselves has diminished, it's actually a negative spiral. And taken to its logical conclusion, we will kill ourselves. Right? That is the ultimate in depression. The pain, my pain is so great that it is bigger than the pain that I'm going to give you for the rest of your life. Boom. That's the decision they're making. And we call them cowards, but God damn, that's not cowardly. It's selfish, but they were really sad. And my theory says sometimes the best thing is for somebody not to be in this universe for whatever reason. Maybe their parents, in their grief, will do something amazing that changes other people's lives, that makes a Nobel Prize winner. You never know. And the Bible tells us all things work for the greater good. So when somebody commits suicide, as perverted as it sounds, it's for the greater good. And that should give you relief that they didn't die in vain. Everything works for the greater good. Therefore, nobody in the history has died in vain.
Mm.
African slaves did not die in vain. And that should be something to rejoice. The other thing I learned in the past couple months is how the least respected people in our society are Black women.
Mm-hmm.
I have an article that I've started that basically says Black women will save the world
Wow.
because you've carried the most pain. So you're the only ones that have healed more than we have. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've had to heal from a deeper place. To me, once you've healed from something, you will never make that mistake again, and you can spot it instantly in others.
Mm-hmm.
You know how people like get healed from stuff, and next thing you know, they're like, "Oh, well, you got this and you got this." Well, guess what? They're right because they know what it is. And it may not be the exact same version that they have, but you got something you need to check out. Because once you've healed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've healed from a toxic relationship, you're not going to have that if you learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
And you flip that switch that said, I'm not worthy to I'm worthy. And if you haven't flipped that switch, you're just going to have worse and worse toxic relationships until you reach the bottom. And hopefully that will switch. Otherwise, you're going to die. You're going to get addicted. So as we go down in depression, our pain from our happiest moment is what we have. So think about the happiest moment of your life right now. What was the happiest moment of your life? Is it right this second? I'm asking you that.
At this second, I
Or
would
is
say it's
or
more of a healing part.
or is there a happier moment in your life?
Oh yes.
Okay. What was
And
that? What was
well,
that happiest?
my honestly, my presently happiest moment is the fact that I've learned to be okay with not having a lot of things that I don't need. I've
Amen.
learned to be okay with that, and it
A-
took it, and that's been a struggle.
Well, I have learned the same lesson, but guess where I came from? I came from first class travel around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, let's spend $25,000 and take the family to Hawaii. Now, it wasn't fuck you billionaire money, but it's 1% money.
Mhm.
that I had at moments in my life. And I've lost all of that. And that hurts. It does because I came from a higher place. And people will be like, well, how the mighty have fallen. Well, that's true. I still feel the pain because my drop is bigger,
Mhm.
which is why white people are in pain because their status has dropped so fast that they don't understand. Why am I feeling so bad?
Mm.
Because that's how you've been making other people feel, motherfucker. Right? Even if you didn't mean to, you did. So of I think the balance of privilege hit an equilibrium recently. And white people now have less privilege because society has gotten to the point where enough people are not going to put up with that shit, including a lot of white people,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
you can blame the white people, but you can also say, but enough of them were on our side that we were able to carry and win this battle. And this will no longer be a problem soon.
Mhm.
Because as you start getting happier, what does your brain not want to do? Lose that happiness.
Mhm.
Happiness is a drug. Happiness is dopamine. It's drugs, period. I mean, serotonin and there's other stuff, but dopamine is the driver. So when your body is pumping dopamine, you are high. Because when you take crystal meth, you get the same amount of dopamine. So you're high and you feel great. And it's a natural high. You don't even know you're high, right? It took me a long time to realize, oh my God, I'm getting myself high, right? Because I've documented this over the past 18 months in the things I write and my theories. And it's just been like making more and more sense. So, you know, if the happiness you feel right now is here and the happiness you've ever been is here, you're in good shape. You do yearn to be a little happier and you wish that pain would go away. It could be somebody that died, could be a mistake you made, whatever, right? But you're at a point where you accept yourself enough that you're forgive-ish.
Yeah,
So you
forgive-ish.
so you have something in your life that you are forgive-ish with,
Mhm.
is what I sense. I don't know what it
Mhm.
is. Doesn't really matter,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But if you recognize it,
Mhm.
then just go, well, if it's guilt, I didn't know at the time I was wrong. I learned what I did was wrong and now I feel guilt.
Mhm.
Or if it's shame, it's that thing that I thought was shameful really isn't. And no one cares
Mhm.
who I love.
Mhm.
No one cares anymore.
Mhm.
Or enough people don't care that it's going to win the day. So in about 10 years, everyone's going to be having sex with everyone else. It's going to be open season for a lot of people, not everyone. That's why you see these rises. I mean, so every generation doesn't pass the same pain. So we made, Gen Z very fragile, but because they accepted themselves more, because they accept themselves as much as their parents love them, which was a whole fucking lot. And it seemed like a lot more than our parents loved us. And that's why we're angry.
Mhm.
But guess what? Our parents loved us just as much as we love our kids. They just didn't have the emotional language to show it because they weren't as healed as you. And each generation is a little bit more healed. So Gen A, which is currently up to 12 years old, you think Gen Z is neurodiverse. You think they're quirky and have autism. You haven't seen anything yet,
Mhm.
right? Because every generation is getting happier with themselves. because we look at our parents and go, well, there's no way we could kill 6 million Jews. How could they do that? Because Hitler thought he was right. I had to forgive Hitler because he truly thought if Germany and the master race take over, we will bring order to the world for 1,000 years. He thought he was going to heal the world. Have you ever heard somebody tell you Hitler thought he would heal the world?
I've had a few people to kind of dabble in it, you know,
Yeah, but
and now it can be more discussed, but then it was
right,
just
it was too
taught.
it
Well,
was too hot. It was
yeah,
too
it was
hot
way.
because the people that went
Mm-hmm.
through it were still here,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, no, "Do not talk to me of this man at all." Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now, so he thought he was right, and he thought he was doing the right thing. As
Mm-hmm.
perverted as it sounds, that is what he believed. And so in his mind, he was justified because he was going, if I don't do this, the race won't be pure and we won't last 1,000 years to bring peace. That's what he thought because that's what he believed. And a lot of them believed. And I believe they felt guilty for doing it because they said, we have to do this out of necessity. Now, when I look at that, I'm like, what? Is he really guilty of a crime? I don't think he's guilty, but he still has to have the consequences. And I would have put a bullet in his head in a second. And so would you.
Mm-hmm.
Would we kill baby Hitler? Yes, we would. Because in that moment, we'd think of the 60 million people that died in World War II and the shit that came out of World War II with the borders in the Middle East and all that. I mean, my God, World War II fucked us up. And then we dropped atomic bombs on people. The good guys dropped atomic bombs. But we're never going to do that again. And no, I don't think any country will. Be, no, I don't think they're going to, it might be a tactical nuke. It's kind of like small scale. Okay. But it's not going to be Armageddon because way earlier in the conversation, we said the thing that gives us the most dopamine is the protection of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think our civilization is truly at risk, we will do something about it. And so I think we reached a turning point on climate change. Enough people believe this stuff is urgent, then don't. But I also believe we'll find reasonable ways to deal with it. I believe in technology, I believe in innovation. And when enough people are scared of climate change and the costs start getting higher, we will move very quickly because we are human beings
Mm-hmm.
and we adapt quickly. And if it's the end of civilization or it's working together, then we're going to work together because we do know we're all human. And if I'm going to die means you're going to die, which means everyone else is going to die, then yeah, I'm going to work together because you know what? I die. And the only way I don't die is if I work with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get to, and I think we've kind of gotten near that point. Enough people are, and there's angst, and people are going to the psychiatrist because of climate change. And my generation calls them snowflakes. They're going, my world is going to die while I am still alive. That's what they're all thinking. And so if you knew at some point in your lifetime the world was going to die, would you go work that shitty job at Walmart?
No,
Fuck no.
no.
I will sit on my ass and do jack nothing before I do that bullshit. And then they lose interest because they're
Mm-hmm.
happy just chillaxing. The problem is AI is about to eat all those jobs.
Oh, yes.
40% of the jobs are going to be eaten by AI. 40%. Black people, Hispanics, junior level people. Now, like people like me, I'm not worried about AI in the least because I used to be chief technology of an AI company. I know how it works. I have a published paper. I presented in front of 500 PhDs. They flew me to Japan to be a keynote speaker 90 days after I got into the field. So it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And things are going to start working out in the weirdest ways. And I think it started when the Pope said it's okay to be gay. The Pope. 2 billion people. Their leader said it's okay to be gay. And I predict pretty soon he's going to say, because I'm gay. Wouldn't that be amazing? And that's the point. Christianity will be okay. Right? Because that's its biggest problem right now is gay people. All right, we'll tolerate divorce. And I think we'll get to an actual agreeable consensus on abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah. When does consciousness begin? And when consciousness begins, that's when the soul is there. So at that point, that is a human. But if there's no conscience, it's not human yet. It's a potential. And you can't be charged for murder for killing a potential. So let's just stick it at 12 weeks and just get on with our day.
You have really wowed. So much needed.
I couldn't have done it without you.
I thank you.
No, I thank you.
And I want to correct you on something. There's
all right.
I do want to make a correction. You went from poor to rich, from rich to poor to rich. Because no amount of money can bring peace and happiness.
Yeah, but I still want the money.
I get it.
Because guess what? We are going to have a really good party. And you told me you cannot sing.
Mm-hmm.
But the next time you're in Atlanta, let's spend the day together.
Which may be in a few months.
And I will take you into a recording studio and I will turn you into a superstar if you believe that I can do it.
Oh, I believe.
Well, there you go.
I believe.
Then get on down. Now you got to start thinking, what kind of music do you want to do? I'm thinking maybe some gospel music, maybe some blues gospel.
I actually now if we want to be a little technical, I used to write a little poetry. And I got one little poetry thing that I've always kept in my mind.
Spit it out.
Okay, so it starts like this. Understanding the annihilation of my circumstance because I'm sitting here facing all of life challenges. And I got the rest of it wrote down, but there's just a small sample.
I like
then I got another one that's kind of
here she goes. Oh,
look,
okay.
Then I got one that's real vulgar.
Go ahead, because you can.
I'm so sick of this shit, all this bullshit, not getting paid shit, all this hating ass shit, nobody understanding shit, disrespecting people's shit. I'm just tired of this shit.
That is a hit. Listen to me. You're gonna rap that shit, and it's gonna be a hit.
Yeah. So them two small samples.
I love every single little bit. All right. So you lied to me.
No, I didn't lie.
Do you know what you just did? You sang to me. Bullshit. I
didn't sing. That's not singing.
Rewind the tape. You did carry a tune.
I didn't carry a. I didn't. That's not singing.
You carried a tune.
Well, I'm gonna go rewatch.
And you're gonna be like, that mofo is right. All right. So this has been very enjoyable.
Yes, it has. And I will be in your inbox tomorrow. But I do want to tell you now, I'm just so thankful because If I tag you too much, just forgive me.
You
But
can
I'm gonna be
listen to me. I am an attention whore.
okay.
You
Cause
cannot tag me too much
okay,
ever.
okay, okay, okay,
There's nothing you can look. My favorite quote in the universe, besides John 13:34,
hmm
right, is from Oscar Wilde. And he said, "Darling, the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about."
Wow.
And that is my motto.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I am
I
happiest
love
when
it.
I am the center of the universe
Okay.
and
Okay.
its attention.
Okay. Okay.
That's
I
being real.
love it. I love it.
Now, what is your real statement
My real statement,
that
honestly,
you
for
want?
me, one,
Want, desire, yearn for?
only thing I yearn for really is to just bring hope and consolation to as many people as possible. I thrive off of that. I just
Yeah.
I do. And
The thing is,
you know,
I so here's where you and I differ. I thrive on the same thing, as you
hmm
can tell, right?
hmm
If what we do heals people, it just means the world will get healed faster, right?
right.
But my desire to have 18 bazillion views of this video is because I want people to be healed. However, if I'm being 100% honest, the real reason is I want the attention and the credit. Whereas you do not need that.
Mm-mm.
You know why I need it?
I'm listening. Why?
Because I'm a white man. I have privilege, and at the end, I have to use my last card. You know, the race card's already been played. We've already decided we're equal on that. All
hmm
I got left is privilege. And that's not my fault. That's because in a room full of 200 urban music people, DJs and artists, and by urban, I mean not white,
I know.
there was me, the white guy, one of the oldest guys in the room, right?
hmm
If not the oldest. And within 15 minutes, I had befriended the top DJ in the room and the top artist because I recognized instantly that they were the ones that were getting all the attention.
Okay.
So I said, well, I have to go there and give them more attention. I have to give them more attention than anyone else is and forceful enough to break their concentration.
Mm.
Hi, I'm Steve with my hand out, right? Other hand on their hand. I'm doing a Bill Clinton. I feel your pain, right? And boom, we're Instagram friends. And I told the DJ guy, I said, look, I want to go on stage, but I want to tell you, I'm not going to go on stage until you tell me it's okay because you're the DJ.
hmm
Because I knew those words will appeal to his vanity. So one of the things about being able to read people is if you don't use it for good, you can fuck some people up.
Okay.
Okay. Because when you have charisma and the ability to read emotions with precision, then I know what emotion I have to play to you for you to react a certain way. And which means I can play you like a fiddle. Does it make sense?
hmm
Okay. And it's just, I'm one piece of information ahead of you. And that piece of information is I'm more selfish than you are. So I will win and I'll have the last word. But the thing is, I really don't believe that 100%.
hmm
I'm willing to accept that we're equal in every way. How about you?
Me too.
All right. So now we need to ask the universe if you've been with us this entire length. How long is this?
Let's see. We've been
2
on
hours?
for hmm we've been on for 2 hours and 6 minutes.
2 hours and 6 minutes.
hmm
I spoke probably 80% of the time.
That's fine.
But what that means on our next conversation,
Mhm.
because I'm selfish, I went first. But the next time we talk, and we should go ahead and put it on the calendar for, let's say, a month from now,
Okay.
I want it to be 80% you and 20% me.
Okay.
And I just want to acknowledge that, well, actually, I didn't come over and take over your podcast. Your podcast was to interview me anyway. So, yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
guilty of that.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah.
No.
All right. Um, this was great. I've got a great social media person. He is from Nigeria, and his last name is Prince. I have a Nigerian prince as my social media person.
I love it.
And I can't wait to send out emails that say, I am Stephen Benfield, a Nigerian prince. And if you'll call me at this number, I will give you a record contract. Or I don't know, something crazy like that. Right.
Yes.
But so his name's Cheeto Prince. And his goal is to make me viral in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because he's like, Steven, he goes, you you have privilege. I said, I know that. He goes, no, you have more privilege than anyone. Because I'm a white male, somewhat handsome, not
Mhm.
not so handsome that it's like, the devil, but beguiling, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
a little bit.
Mhm.
I like the earrings, girl.
Oh, thank you.
I want to feel them rake across my back. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I know I love those little pics. So yeah. All right. I'm getting myself lost, and we just need to shut down. I'm gonna let you have the final word.
Well, there will be no final word from me because one only thing I want to say is that you have truly blessed and done something that has been needed and that the world is truly thirsty for. And sometimes we just need to step to the side and just let it be. And you came forth and you did what was needed. I just thank you for allowing me the opportunity and your time because I do know you're an hour ahead of time,
Mhm.
ahead of my time. So I know it's a little bit after 11 o'clock p.m. where you are. But when I say I'm truly, truly, truly thankful and grateful, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity because it is a challenge at times trying to build a diverse platform.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for allowing me that part,
Well, if you only had
right?
diverse people, you need a token white person. So I can be your token white person on
Well,
your
that's
diversity
fine.
platform.
Well, I'll accept
Here's the problem with diversity initiatives.
it.
White people don't feel they're included. And if you're going to talk about diversity,
Hmm.
you got to include the white people.
Hmm.
But the problem is all the diversity programs talk about everyone else, which
Hmm.
is okay because that's the intent. But the problem is you
Hmm.
now have white people who feel left out.
Hmm.
And it's not that they want to be dominant, they just want to be heard
Hmm.
because you guys are so tired about hearing about white people. You're like, why the fuck do we need to hear about white people again? But the thing is, the white people need to learn about the white people because
We all need to learn.
because now they feel like they're not represented in media, and you know how that feels.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So just I know it sounds crazy, but white people just want to make sure there's a few white people left, and they'll be perfectly fine with that. Don't shut us out.
The change start. Be the change you want to see.
Hmm.
Be the change you want to see. And part of being the change is just to be the change.
Right.
And I thank you so much because it was just so much needed. Only thing you got to give me is a day and time. You're going to choose the next day and time once you go over your calendar.
That's so hard to do.
No, you're just going to take it one day at a time.
I know.
I'm
I know.
available. And now I have your personal number.
Girl, you got my digits. You know that.
So So, and
Okay.
I thank you, and I thank your partner for allowing me to keep you
Oh,
this
look,
time.
yeah, you don't need to worry about that. So we are both kind of independent, and
Okay.
he knows when I'm gonna do my thing because
Okay.
he knows this is the moneymaker.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because I'm also in this for the money, not because I want the money. I mean, I do want the money. Come on, I want to live large a little bit
Okay.
and take my victory lap
Okay.
and live well the rest of my life. But what I
Okay.
also want is to take my money. I'm going to keep 10% of my money. The other 10% I'm giving to my ex-wife. I put it in the divorce decree
Okay.
because I wanted to make sure she was taken care of and got enough money where she was no longer pissed at me for being an asshole.
It's okay.
And that's for her to make as much as I do. Damn it. And the other amount of money, well, actually, the other amount of money, I am just going to put into other people's dreams. I'm going to help fund people. I want 10% for my involvement. And if I fund you, I want 10% for my money. So I'm getting 20% of your company, but I'm going to help you be successful, which means I'm going to get rich beyond the wildest dreams because it's the
Yeah.
best multi level marketing program in the world. And do you know who taught me that marketing program? That motherfucker Knox Bonds,
Okay.
way back when, who said cash is not my currency.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to signing my friend to a record contract, he gave him his own label and so said, go find artists and give them the same deal I gave you. And then we'll run them through my distribution. And I said, this is the Amway of music
Wow.
because my friend's going to get half of the artist he signs. But now if my friend gets sick or gets cancer in his throat and can't sing, he can always spot talent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you're the label owner, you get 50%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the A&R that finds the talent. I just want 10%. But
Mm-hmm.
if I can have 10% of the income of, I don't know, 20 superstars, I'm living larger than all those motherfuckers because I don't have to do any work. You see what I
Right.
mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
the I'm the ultimate plantation owner. But here's the thing. I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm working too.
Yeah.
And we're going to make everyone happy.
Yeah. And that's teamwork. What's the saying? Teamwork
But
make the
make
dream
the dream
work.
work.
Teamwork make the dream work.
And
So
that's what we need to do as a world.
we will. And we're doing it now. We're
So,
just gonna continue to
all
spread,
right. So,
spread the love.
so here's what I want you to think about.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some homework and I'm going to ask you to give me some homework
Okay.
before next time.
Okay.
Your homework is to get rid of any preconceived notions of what is possible for you to do
Okay.
and assume that anything you believe
Mm-hmm.
or can conceive of is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to come back with the biggest dream. So that dream could be you want to be the first woman president of the United States.
Okay.
It could be you want to be a ballet dancer. I don't know, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's good, but it's got to be 100% authentic to you that if you did that, you would die a happy woman, happier than you are now, because you're pretty happy.
I
You and I are both very happy because we're operating a level of happiness that people don't understand.
mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, by us just continuing in that happiness right now,
Mm-hmm.
you feel it right now. Are your ears ringing?
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling pressure on your temples?
On my temples?
Just a little bit, kind of a weird sensation on your temples, but your ears are ringing. And the ringing is probably getting a little higher. So I want you to think of the happiest thing you could tell me right now and tell me. And we're going to go back and forth. I want you to tell me what happens to your ears that are ringing.
So you want
I've
me to tell you something happy?
something that would make you happier than right now, or
Oh,
make
something that would make me happier
or
than
would
right
make me
now?
or would make me happier.
Well,
Either one.
something that would make me happier. I'll need my passport. so I can go visit another country.
Well, you're going to have to get that passport because I'm about to blow up in Nigeria. Would you like to go to Nigeria with me?
I would love to go to Nigeria.
And get this. We're going to call it the Evident Prince Foundation.
Okay.
I'm evident, right?
Mm-hmm.
My Nigerian friend, my head of social media is Mr. Prince, Evident Prince. His strategy is to blow me up in Nigeria by essentially saying this man is Nigerian and he is a prince.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We concocted this crazy idea. What if we could blow me up in Nigeria, but you have to donate to the Evident Nigerian Prince Foundation. I'm
Hey.
gonna the white man, am gonna make money posing as a Nigerian prince, backed by Nigerians and funded by Nigerians. And
Wow.
if they donate $100,000, we will come to Nigeria for a month and live. Now imagine if this actually happened. And it might be for every friend you want me to bring, I need another $25,000. And then we just see how big the money gets.
Wow.
Now, imagine if that was true. That would be one of the most amazing trips in the entire history of the earth. Don't you
Mm.
believe? I would be walking into Nigeria as a Nigerian prince to be with my entourage of crazy friends that I have met randomly through the internet or in Ubers or artists that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to party in Nigeria. And guess what? During that month, my Nigerian prince is going to be blowing us up in another country.
Wow. Hey.
And what do we, oh my God. Listen to me. If you believe that's possible, then I want you to dream something that would help make that possible. That's my homework to you.
Okay.
What's your homework
Okay.
to me?
My homework to you is well, we got about a month and a half before we talk again.
About a month, maybe. Yeah, yeah. March. Yeah, second week of March.
Okay. So my homework to you, literally, is to just keep being self-evident you.
Oh, thank God. See, that's something I can do because that's just being me.
And just encourage people
You know,
in the same light that you have
yeah,
this evening, and just remind people that to
yeah.
be authentically themselves, that it's okay.
And you will become one of the happiest people on the planet if you do it. So get in
Mm-hmm.
early.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you Christian?
Yes.
I'm going to go on a ledge here. Are you ready
Okay.
for this? Are you ready for
I'm
this,
going.
sister?
I'm ready.
What is the rapture to you?
What is the rapture to me?
Yeah.
Literally, God is probably gonna come get a few, get some. Some may be left behind, like some of us are left behind right now. Our time will come when our time comes, and we will rise whenever He decides that we will rise. I don't believe in pure death. I believe that the spirit, regardless, leaves the body. So I believe in life
Do you believe
ongoing
do you
after. That's
believe that
just me.
do you believe that during the rapture eventually everyone will be saved?
What I believe is those who want to be saved will be saved.
I agree
But
with you on that.
what I also believe is the phrase that my aunt would tell me, even to this day. For none of us of Jesus Christ, we don't have a heaven or hell to put nobody in.
That is true.
I have to work on me.
Right. We I mean, it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said, "Love yourself as I love you,"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which means even that part of you
Mm-hmm.
where you still have guilt and shame, or anger or
That
doubt
part of me.
or doubt, those
Looking
parts.
forward, looking forward, I don't know about the guilt and shame. Looking forward, possibilities, some doubts. But I believe that people have made religion more complicated than what it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the word Christian is not mentioned in the Bible. And I think that the problem is humans get in the way
Right.
and they make things their own.
And
I believe
but they do but they do it out of love because they think it's right.
we do it out of love, but that's why
And guess what?
we have to work on
I
the
think
relationship.
right, but I think God uses those people anyway. So what they write is right. You know why?
Yes,
Because God
yes,
wouldn't lie to us. So it's already
no,
there and we have to assume it's right.
yes.
The thing is, even it could be right symbolically, it could be right literally, it could be right in the fact that it's wrong. Does that make sense? Right?
Making sense.
So, because Jesus said, look, I'm not here to abolish the law and the prophets, but he's basically saying, y'all got some shit wrong.
And we
And
do.
and he resets it. And his,
Yes.
his last commandment, love yourself as I love you,
Mm-hmm.
which means you have to love yourself 100%, even the bad parts. Like
Mm-hmm.
any negative part you have about yourself, you have
Mm-hmm.
to accept it. But
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, you'll know yourself a little bit more. You'll
Mm-hmm.
believe in yourself anymore, and you'll be happier and happier. And my theory says when you get rid of negative thoughts, your IQ goes up. You literally get smarter, and your
Mm-hmm.
creativity and your artistry and your ability to sense emotional depth
Mm-hmm.
increases because your
Mm-hmm.
brain isn't half, you know, your brain doesn't have to go over here and make decisions because that's work. It takes
Mm-hmm.
work to evaluate. Well, hey, is this good or bad? How strong is it? Hey, is this jealousy or is this fear? Which one, your brain has to make those decisions. And it does it for every thought you have and every sense change that you get. That's a lot of times. And I'm a computer scientist. So I know that anything inside of a loop that takes time, if I can make that slower, I can do more work.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean my computer's faster. It just means it's not having to waste its time deciding if this is good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Which means if we tell ourselves, I'm going to accept everything that happens for the greater good, I'm going to have desire, but not too much. Because when it's too much, then it's pushing and I get frustrated. And that means I'm thinking negative thoughts, which is what I'm trying not to do. So if you want to stay out of negative thoughts, you've got to push just a little because then the negatives are so small. You're like, okay, I can deal with it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you accept everything, you accept everyone for the greater good. Your IQ starts going into crazy places and you can do things like understand theoretical physics in a conversation. As long as I give you the logic of what I'm saying, you'll be like, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my IQ is sitting at 250 right now, so is yours
Mm-hmm.
because we're equal. If we just if you decide to sing a song right now, it would be amazing. You want to give that a try?
What you want me to say?
Whatever is comfortable in your range and something you don't need. It could be as simple as A, B, C, easy as one, two, three. It could be anything you want, even if it's a children's song. I don't care.
Let's see. Let's see. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow.
Like go deeper.
Because he
He
lives,
lives.
all fear is
Gone.
gone. Because I know God holds
Oh,
the
future.
future, and life is worth the living just because he lives.
Now, at the beginning of this conversation, what did I tell you about your ability to sing?
You said I could sing if I believe I could sing.
And what did you just do?
I sung, but I don't know how it sound on the other end.
I'm telling you, look, I'm going to give you my honest feedback here
Oh yeah, give me
because
on.
you said the magic words way earlier. You said validation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we heal people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, is we validate them.
Hmm.
Um, so you sang a song, you did, and you did it willingly, which means
Mm-hmm.
you somewhere during this conversation, I have helped you get over your fear of singing
Mm-hmm.
in public, especially to somebody that just told me he's going to fuck around with Outcast. And I have a meeting through my friend with Kanye West in May of this year.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My acting business partner, uh, he coaches Renee Zellweger on acting. She's an Award winner,
Mm.
and he's her coach. What does that mean in his acting ability? It's really good. And his teaching ability is even better. That's why Renee Zellweger uses him, right? And a whole bunch of other stars do too. Um, and so I have all these people that I mess with that are one step away from greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And all they're waiting for me to do is show them something so great that they're going to walk me in the door.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that's going to happen is if I believe it can happen. Now, people may listen to this and go, this guy's crazy. But guess what? It's not crazy if you're right. And the only way it's going to be right is if I actually believe it is,
Mm.
right? And if and everyone else in the world is going to have to think I'm crazy. And that's a hard thing to put up with. But the only person that I know that's not going to think I'm crazy is my partner.
Mm.
Because when he legitimately says I'm crazy, not just in joking, and he says the word strawberry to me, that's our code word. If he says the word strawberry, then I know I've crossed a line and that he's really worried. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that way I know there's one person in my life that will always accept every part of me, even when they think I'm wrong. Good night.
What's up? Good
What's
night.
up?
What's up?
You sang wonderfully. You were nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't attack things the way you can. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Your voice got more confident as you went along, especially toward the end,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still holding back. In fact, you're holding way back. I know you are. But remember, I spot talent. I have a record
Mm-hmm.
label. I fuck with Outcast. Jerry Wanda is a friend of mine. He's got 3 Grammy Awards, was up for Best Album last year because he produced Mary J. Blige. It's going to work and we're going to heal everyone.
Yes.
And you're right here at the beginning.
And I believe it and I receive it and I thank you for it.
And that's why we met. Write that statement right now. And now it's time to shut down. Thank you so much.
You
No,
welcome.
look, I'm going to tell you something you need to stop doing.
Okay.
You need to stop apologizing to me
Mm.
and you need to stop justifying your actions to me because every time you tell me a decision, you go on for about a minute telling me why you made that decision and how fucking humble you are
Mm.
because you're still treating me like a white man.
No, I'm like this with everybody,
No,
not just because you're
listen to
white.
me. I know.
No, listen to
Listen to
me.
me. I understand you are, but
We
I'm telling you that
let me tell you why. Let
you
me
need to
tell you
become a
why.
little
No,
bit
I
white.
want to tell you why. I want to tell you why.
Yes, man.
Here's the thing. People don't have to do nothing for nobody. That's why I stand. one thing that irks me is lack of gratitude and when people are not thankful. That bothers me.
Yes.
That's something that has bothered me. Part of that has a lot to do with me managing
Say that again.
when I was managing. Okay.
Okay.
And I can appreciate that. But what I do know, my personal experience is something that has I almost allowed to ruin me was knowing that you can be good to people and they're not even thankful when you're not even expecting anything back. But there's nothing wrong with telling people thank you.
So
So I am grateful. And you need to be okay knowing that it's okay for people to tell you thank you.
you know what? I appreciate that.
Okay.
But remember what I said and
Mm-hmm.
what we learned today
Right.
is that when people reject you,
Mm-hmm.
you can either accept the rejection
Mm-hmm.
or you can reject it.
Right.
And what you're doing to the people that don't say thank you is you're interpreting that as rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what if they're not? What if they just aren't the type of person to say too many thank yous because they think, yeah, we're equal. Does that make sense?
It makes plenty of sense.
So,
Even
so
in being equal, I was always trained. There's listen, thank you. Yes,
you,
sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And
you,
thank you will get
you,
us
you,
farther in life
oh, of
than
course,
anything else.
because you know why? Because those are the things that they had to say to white people.
Well,
Those are things they had to say because if they
and
didn't, bad things would happen.
listen, but there's nothing wrong with being thankful.
But,
And
but
I'm gonna hold on to this. I'm gonna tell you thankful. I thank you like I tell everybody else. So I'm not gonna not tell you thank you. I am grateful and I am thankful.
well, that I know is completely honest,
And I'm
and
going
the
and
same goes.
I dwell in I've had to work more with gratitude
Mm,
because what gratitude has taught me in the past 6 to 8 months, if I can just focus on being more grateful, great things will attract.
and do
Great things will happen and great people will be sent in my path.
and what is the thing that gets you angry is when people are not grateful to you.
Ungratefulness in
No,
general,
no,
not
no,
to me.
no,
It's
no.
in
Hold on,
general.
hold on, hold on. I didn't say ungrateful.
Right.
I said
Not
not.
grateful. Oh yes,
That's a
it does.
different thing.
It
That's a
does.
different
It
thing.
irks me. Yeah, it
No,
irks me.
but it is a different thing. And
Okay.
Je- Jesus also said, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do." And that's what
Uh,
you need.
uh,
That's what you need to do. That's the
yeah.
last little piece you need, and you'll be at complete peace.
I'm,
Ooh,
I received that,
uh,
and I'm listening.
thank you. Oh, I know you are.
Mm-hmm,
Even sometimes I think you're not,
mm-hmm,
but you are.
mm-hmm.
What's going on? I have some cash. Okay. Yeah, just give me this stuff to do. All right, now we gotta get off because I have a job to do. I got to cash out somebody some money.
Okay. Good night, and I
Good night.
thank you. All right.
All right.